thought,
Right.
they said, would you come and bring your, the spirit of Nick, and so.
Hi
I
all.
had to say yes. Yes.
Thanks for coming. And Silas?
He's back.
They say. Thanks for coming. So this is the second of our 4 climate action talks this fall. And tonight we'll be hearing from Michelle Lewis and Andrea Hedley. There she is. About ongoing efforts by the Town of Gibsons to develop a low carbon resilience climate action plan. If you remember that whole 6-word phrase, you get an extra point. So that the subsequent climate action talks this fall include on November 12th in this room, reducing the climate footprint of your transportation, and November 26th, a screening of the movie Incandescence, which is about fires in the Okanagan and the resilience of the communities around there. So these talks are organized by BlueAct Marine Society and by Nancy, which also runs the Tide Pools Aquarium and does many programs in marine education, conservation. And sponsors include the Town of Gibsons, thank you, Sunshine Coast Credit Union and National Film Board. And if you'd like one of these handy cards to put on your fridge to remind you of yourself of upcoming talks, there's a bunch of them at the back. So to tonight's talk, so Michelle Lewis is the natural asset technician for the Town of Gibsons, which is a leader across North America in valuing and protecting natural assets. And Michelle works to monitor, maintain, and value those natural assets, including streams and aquifers, wetlands, and shorelines. She holds a master's degree in urban forestry leadership, and her work, as well as others, has earned the Town of Gibsons multiple awards. And Andrea Hedley, over on the far right, is the engagement lead at the Community Energy Association. That's a non-profit organization which helps local governments and communities address complex climate challenges and co-create resilient low-carbon strategies. Andrea's worked in this field for about 20 years, including at the Renewable Cities program at SFU. She holds a BA Environmental Design from UBC, a Master's in Environmental Education and Communication from Royal Roads University, and is a certified practitioner in public participation. So tonight, Michelle will share progress made so far on the town's climate action plan, and Andrea will lead some interactive sessions to get your ideas on various topics. And in case you wonder about this t-shirt, it's the temperature anomalies from 1850 to 2024, so it's going up. Take it away.
I was wondering. Do I need the microphone? Can everyone hear me? Yeah. Okay, great. I'm usually pretty loud. So, welcome. Thanks everyone for coming. It's nice to see some familiar faces. My name is Michelle Lewis. I work for the Town of Gibsons. I'm the natural asset tech, as David mentioned. I've been working in this role for just over 5 years, and I've been with the town itself for 8 years. So I wanted to do a land acknowledgement. Something personal about this is that I've been learning recently about what it means to do that, and learning from my counterpart Andrea at the Community Energy Association that it's beyond just the territorial acknowledgement. So I do acknowledge that it's taking place on the unceded and ancestral territory of the Squamish Nation. But beyond this, I recognize that the nation is doing work across their territory, and the town is walking alongside them to further this work. So the Squamish Nation released their climate legacy strategy earlier this year, and it outlines their commitment to climate action. And the nation, through that, invites governments, industries, institutions to use the climate legacy strategy as a framework for engaging with the nation in advancing climate action. The development of the strategy itself, along with the priorities of the Squamish Nation, represent how the nation and how the people exercise their rights as outlined in UNDRIP, the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. there are 11 quick start actions within the climate legacy strategy, and those are just going to be the ones I'll touch on rather than the whole strategy. There's a range of community resilience actions, both on mitigation and adaptation side. And staff at the Town of Gibsons have met with the climate team at the nation, and together we've explored ways to collaborate on the implementation of the strategy. The following town initiatives were highlighted at the meeting. The potential for co-developing water objectives for the watershed, aligning the goals and actions in the community and corporate energy and climate action plans, low carbon transportation, the town's urban forest plan and source to sea projects. They both provide opportunities for increasing tree canopy cover within the territory. Of course, the official community plan update and the Aquifer Watershed Monitoring Program provide opportunities for collaboration in the identification and protection of the natural assets in both communities. And the Healthy Harbor Project, which the town supports, can provide opportunities to build capacity and expand on the nation's guardianship program and provide capacity for ACE monitors or ACE technicians to participate in restoration projects and expand the monitoring network. And also the new Emergency Operations Center at the Town of Gibsons is being fully equipped to serve during local and regional emergencies, and it's also been serving as a joint space for Squamish Nation staff to come and engage in training activities with the Town of Gibsons. Okay, so beyond regional collaboration, Gibsons Council itself has put climate adaptation, mitigation, and sustainability at the forefront of decision making. Goal 10 of the strategic plan includes objectives to develop a community energy and emissions plan, which we completed last year, and to create a carbon neutral plan for which we're completing this year, which is now called the Low Carbon Resilience Climate Action Plan. And last year we completed the carbon neutral plan for corporate emissions and corporate operations. So the plan itself, the action plan itself, will help Gibsons adapt to climate change and cut emissions through one comprehensive plan, to embed social equity into every stage of climate action, ensuring no one's left behind, and to align with existing plans and initiatives in the town so the efforts are coordinated and effective. A big component too is engaging the community, including Squamish Nation, the youth, and equity deserving groups to ensure that the plan reflects a wide range of voices and experiences. So this image here just shows the amount of, there's more than that, but just the plans that are being considered within the Town of Gibsons for the low carbon action. Let's just call it the LCR-CAP from now on. An advisory team was formed with climate experts from the community. Some of them are in this room, and it's from a cross-section of disciplines. Okay, so what is a low carbon resilience climate action plan? This term was coined by SFU's Action on Climate team, and low carbon resilience is an innovative approach that combines adaptation, so reducing community vulnerability to climate risks, and mitigation, lowering greenhouse gas emissions. Rather than treating adaptation and mitigation separately, LCR integrates these priorities into one streamlined, action-oriented plan that values other important community benefits. LCR action plans also try to leverage the co-benefits of climate action to achieve broader goals like health, equity, and local economic development. So low carbon resilience and natural asset management, which I'll get into in a later slide, both enhance resilience while supporting carbon reduction goals. Both LCR and natural asset management aim to create systems that reduce GHGs, enhance the ability to withstand climate impacts, and to protect and restore ecosystems. So the plan itself started with a updated GHG inventory and futures emissions modeling, and next came the climate risk and vulnerability assessment. This assessment identified the most significant climate hazards facing Gibsons and assessed the community vulnerabilities and strengths. The strategy and action development produced a prioritized list of actions to reduce emissions, increase resilience, protect and enhance natural assets, and support social equity and affordability. So now we are in the implementation planning phase, where the advisory team has been refining the actions that we've identified through this, through the strategy and action development. The implementation plan will also include high-level estimates of cost, timelines, and funding options. And I also, which is not on the slide, but which was a question from the audience already, was engagement sessions and how this plan, how they engaged with the public in this. So we had, like I mentioned, the advisory team providing input. We had a community survey, outreach and conversations with organizations serving equity deserving groups, and then engagement with Squamish Nation and youth. And I was mentioning to Dave here that I think that was probably the most valuable part of this whole process so far for myself as a Town of Gibsons employee, to understand what the community, what their concerns are with climate change, like at the local level. And of course I had an amazing team to work with for engagement. I'm not going to talk too much about this because this is out of my area of expertise. There was quite a few folks on the CEA team working on this. All of this will be in the document, but I just wanted to show this slide that just kind of gives you a brief idea of the emissions by sector. I'm happy to answer questions about it after, but again, it's not really something I'm not well versed in this. Okay, so the projected climate changes for the Town of Gibsons itself. Through that hazard, risk, and vulnerability assessment, we identified these hazards, and of course, all of you here have witnessed storms and like increase in storm events. And what we were looking at is how does that relate to Gibsons specifically, like things like warmer winters causing more pests and diseases, warming land and increasing ocean temperatures, rising summer temperatures, which could create greater energy demand for cooling and increased economic strain, wildfire seasons that could be more intense and longer, the heavy rainfall events, increasing risk of flooding and erosion or slope failure, power outages from more frequent windstorms, and then regional droughts that may strain water systems and ecosystems, even as Aquifer 560 is protected and buffered from these seasonal shifts. Okay, at this point I want to bring in natural asset management and what that means in the context of low carbon resilience and in the context of this plan. It's an approach that the town follows to climate adaptation, mitigation, and ultimately community resiliency. So I started, like I said, in this role 5 years ago. My role has changed immensely since the beginning, and it's grown. I kind of joke that it's like anything green or blue just comes across my desk. It's like, we don't know what to do about this. Oh, Michelle.
And you do continue to be the only natural assets technician in Canada?
Yeah. And I actually do a lot of presentations like to other municipalities, and or even like to, there was a program at Haida Gwaii, like at the Haida Gwaii Institute, is that what it's called? Yeah. They, and this course they were teaching about community resiliency, and they asked me to come and speak, and I was talking about my role, and they said, well, do other people have this role at their municipality? And I said, no. And they said, well, why not? And I'm like, I don't know. Can you just talk to them? Because I can keep talking about it, but I don't know. I know that there's barriers to it. And I would even say, like, even within the Town of Gibsons, it's so unique that, like, I couldn't go anywhere else and do this job, right? I would be, and I love this job, I do. It's grown so big, and it would be great if I could have some staff support.
I think it's time for me to go down.
It's all video recorded. So.
Yeah. Anyway, it's so natural asset management is about looking at looking at the way that natural assets being, that didn't pop up. The way that natural, like creeks, forests, wetlands, foreshore, how they all contribute to the municipal services. And so in saying that, we need to, you know, make sure that we have budget to maintain these services and or to maintain the assets so they can continue to deliver services. So there's financial planning that goes into that. There's across all departments we discuss natural assets and how to maintain them and protect them. But then the bigger thing is that they play a dual role, like beyond, I mean, they provide services, but the services they provide really fit into this low carbon resilience concept, because things like trees, they sequester carbon, but they also like provide stormwater management, and they're, you know, like there's never just a singular thing that a natural asset does as opposed to a culvert which just conveys water. So the LCR approach recognizes that climate action and ecosystem management shouldn't be treated separately, which is in line with natural asset management. Wetland, restoring a wetland will sequester carbon and reduce flood risk. Urban tree planting improves air quality, provides shade, and stores carbon. So it's like bridging that mitigation and adaptation across both of those, plus providing all the co-benefits. So when I first learned about low carbon resilience, I actually did a presentation for like pre-COP 15, and I was going to present on low carbon resilience with the woman who had coined the term at SFU, and I was like, I don't even know what that is, because it was so new, right? It was so niche, and so it's been interesting over the last 5 years to dive into what that actually means in the context of Gibsons and natural asset management, and that they are essentially the same thing. Both of them encourage nature-based solutions rather than carbon-intensive engineered solutions. Good, there's a clock. Okay, so, oh no, oh, it was a really nice slide too. No, wait. Oh, wow. Okay, I didn't know I did that. So, these are just some images of projects that I have worked on in the past, or I'm currently working on, or I'm going to work on. And I just wanted to touch on those because they're like natural asset management, or LCR, in action within the town. Coastal Resilience Project was the first one that I worked on. I got to work with ESSA Technologies, of who David Marmarak is associated, and we looked at nature-based solutions or natural asset solutions and how they can be used to protect the foreshore, like along the foreshore of Gibsons. It was a huge learning project because we were developing a model to look at waves and look at what, say, enhancing eelgrass beds or changing like the look of the foreshore, like anchoring logs or foreshore vegetation, and what that could do for protection. And we did find that there were things within the model that we needed to tweak, that needed to be tweaked in like subsequent models, but it was kind of like a first pass, and it was great. And it was my first opportunity to work with these outside consultants that are incredible in their fields, and bring that into Gibsons and start kind of thinking at that level of like what we could achieve through these projects. The next big one was Source to Sea. Again, I did work with some folks from ESSA on that, and also the Natural Assets Initiative. And we were looking at the whole watershed and doing natural asset valuation and looking at it from the lens of stormwater management, like what are the trees, like how much avoided costs by planting trees or restoring wetlands, what that would do. So that was a 4-year project that kept me quite busy, and I'm still working on developing an implementation plan to actually roll out like those recommendations from the project. Aquifer monitoring is ongoing. We've been doing it since 2013, so we're still refining like what we want to know through data collection and the monitoring, and it's been great. We've been working with Waterline Resources on that for years, and we're just, you know, going back to the natural asset management. If you don't know what you have, then how can you protect it, and how can you plan financially to maintain and monitor. Watershed monitoring is something that we increased over the last few years too, so we put climate stations throughout the watershed. I think we have 6 from like the top of Mount Elphinstone all the way down to the ocean. We've got one on Town Hall. And just looking at, we're starting, because we've been collecting data since 2022, I believe, so now we're gonna start doing analysis and figuring out what trends we're seeing, if we are seeing any trends, and that just gives us better information about like precipitation and impacts on the creeks and what we potentially need to do to, like areas that we haven't collected data that we may need to expand the monitoring program. White Tower Pond, everyone's probably familiar with that. It's a stormwater detention pond in Upper Gibsons. That was a great grant-funded project that took a really long time, but it's completed and it's working well. We're doing a creek restoration project down in Lower Gibsons that you've probably been, impacted by noise and traffic closures and whatever. But the plan is, or that first phase is just, the planting is just getting completed. So it's, again, looking at this natural asset as, stormwater mitigation, but also habitat enhancement and biodiversity protection and et cetera. Urban forest plan, that's kind of, there's not much to say about that except for it's the town's first, and again, I'm working on an implementation plan for across departments, how that will get rolled out. And then I wanted to briefly mention a project that I'm working on with ICLEI Canada, which we've just applied for a grant. Council approved me to apply for the grant a couple of weeks ago, and we're working on developing community resilience hubs. And that's this picture of this little bench here, just to highlight it, looking at ways to use natural spaces, green spaces, as climate resiliency spaces for like mental well-being and like get out of this wildfire smoke. The air's pure within the forest. It's cooler if there's like extreme heat waves, and then looking at like retrofitting or outfitting these spaces with things like emergency supply benches that the community can access. So looking at that idea of empowering and providing tools for the community itself to take care of themselves in a climate emergency, like, and to not have it be like top down, the town of Gibsons has to protect you or has to do all this, and just like giving people access to resources for extreme climate events. There's way more I can say about it, but, and my colleague Ina is working, she's from ICLEI Canada, we're working together on this. Okay, back to the LCR CAP. Through the development of the project, we came up with, what emerged were these 7 focus areas. And tonight I'm going to talk about the 3 in yellow, because the other ones I'm not the best to speak to those. And also I can't talk forever. Okay, so the first one is resilient natural assets and ecosystems, which is kind of my thing. And so these are some of the strategies that came out of it, and then we had draft actions, which we're going to be workshopping with further with our advisory team, and then once we pare them all down, I'm looking to Andrea because I'm not quite sure the process, but then those will, we had the long list, then we had the shorter list, and then we'll have the list that goes with the draft plan.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, we're gonna do some work with staff, across the different departments to make sure, because a lot of these plans get rolled out without really asking staff, does this work with your department, is this realistic? So yeah, it really has to be a lot of work with staff, and then we're hoping that we'll have enough budget to do a final survey so we can go back to the community and say, which of these are a priority? Because of course, you can't do everything, and we're trying to move away from the era of these plans that are just a big laundry list of actions, and what does Gibsons really need to do, and where do you want to put your resources and your money? So yeah.
Great, thank you for that. So I'll just go over kind of some high level actions, things like collaborating with the Sunshine Coast Regional District and other regional partners on environmentally significant areas, partnering with the House on Biosphere Region Initiative, Supporting community stewardship and awareness of the benefits of natural assets. Looking at climate mitigation benefits of natural assets into planning and cost benefit analysis, carbon sequestration potentials, developing protocols and metrics for valuing ecosystem services like stormwater attenuation, carbon sequestration, advancing coastal biodiversity and resilience to climate hazards. I mean, we're lucky we partner with the Healthy Harbor, and so, you know, there's resources there and opportunities for collaboration. And also continue to investigate and support natural asset approach applied through the whole watershed, because obviously it's outside of town boundaries in some areas. Community resilience and well-being is another one that I'm really into, is talking about things like advancing local food security through collaboration and advocacy, because we're looking at, you know, what could actually, what is going to be impacted in all of these across the community, and so looking beyond just, you know, what if there's a wildfire, what if there's, like, looking at, like, what if we have a loss to our access to food sources from the Lower Mainland. Collaborating regionally to strengthen wildfire resilience, strengthening evacuation and emergency transportation resilience, supporting and coordinating neighborhood level emergency preparedness, which goes back to these climate resilient, or the community resilience hubs, and like empowering folks to prepare within their own neighborhoods. Increasing household resilience for lower income and high risk residents, and working with partners to identify key, like, upgrades to key municipal and community buildings. Minimize waste, supporting community groups to develop infrastructure that would foster local and circular food systems, continue to educate on what can and cannot be accepted in the green bin program, and promote participation in waste reduction campaigns. And as far as organizational leadership and collaboration, we're working, like Andrea said, that we've got a call in with the SCRD. There's actually two, I think, that we're working with the SCRD on, like, refining these, like, collaboration, waste management, things that cross both of our jurisdictions, and advancing shared leadership in land and watershed stewardship. So this includes with the Squamish Nation, enhancing communication and engagement on climate resilience and natural assets, supporting climate education and youth engagement, integrating climate resilience into landscaping and maintenance practices. So again, this goes back to, like, us speaking to our Parks Department and our Public Works Department and saying what's actually feasible, and getting some feedback there. And then upgrading stormwater systems to handle future increased rainfall. And then tracking and reporting on progress on the plan implementation, which I think is really key, because, like Andrea said, you don't want this just to be this big laundry list, it sits on a shelf and nobody does anything. So, like, annual reporting to the council and the community about how we're meeting targets, and so I'll just briefly say that there are shared roles in climate action. So I've already spoken about the Town of Gibsons and what we're doing, and then Squamish Nation and Sunshine Coast Regional District. There's collaboration and alignment with our climate plans, but there's also folks like utilities. They're tasked with decarbonizing energy and service systems and building climate resilience infrastructure. They also need to partner with communities and governments to support electrification, efficiency, and reliability. BC Transit has a responsibility to provide low carbon I'm saying that they're responsible, but that's just like to provide low carbon transit options. And then academic institutions and NGOs, they provide research and data and technical expertise. We've already had conversations about how important it is for a local government to partner with the research community, because it's expensive. It's expensive to do research. And they facilitate collaboration and capacity building through education, applied projects, and community partnerships. And one of their roles is to convene and connect sectors, helping bridge science, policy, and local knowledge to accelerate climate actions. And then the last one is Gibson's community itself. businesses and residents are encouraged to take collective and individual action to reduce emissions and increase resilience, like home retrofits, climate preparation, advocacy, and participating in planning, partnerships, and stewardship initiatives that strengthen local climate action and resilience. And I'm gonna leave it at that. Thank you. We could do. We could do Q&A here, or if we want to do it more informally, we are going to move into an activity led by Andrea. Does anybody have any questions? Hi, Bruce.
I'm curious about how Gibsons came to have a natural assets technician. What, was it a particular champion counselor who said this is a good thing? Was it staff? How did that come about? How'd you get your job?
Okay, well, what I know, but this may not be the whole truth, but is that we had an asset management coordinator. So like local governments have to have an asset management program. It's mandated, so we have to account for these assets, like inventory, make plans. And our asset management coordinator position was vacant for a while. And my understanding is that the director of infrastructure, which is the department that asset management and natural asset management sits in, that they thought, well, let's do something different. Let's try this natural asset technician position. And it was created as a 6-month term position. So I was working in parks already. So I applied for the job. And then after 6 months, they turned it into a full-time position. But it was just in alignment with like what the town had been, like the culture that they had fostered too, with and like with the eco asset strategy from way back when.
That started in 2014.
Yeah, yeah.
Or it was, the work towards it started even before that.
Yeah.
And the eco asset strategy, which became natural assets, went back to 2014.
Yeah.
So the assets management coordinator was already having to look at a lot. It was a bit of an awkward fit too, because I think people were applying for it with like a traditional asset management background, and what we were looking for was somebody who had a lot of natural assets
Knowledge,
experience,
yeah.
and I think probably what we found out was we really could find that internally.
Yeah.
Because everybody had been discussing natural assets and learning about natural assets within the town of Gibsons.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was curious because you say it's the only one in Canada
Yeah.
with that title, but there must be other municipalities that have people in charge of natural heritage concerns.
Yeah. There are, so the Natural Assets Initiative, which is the organization that was originally formed by our CAO and a group of 4 or 5 others, from like David Suzuki Foundation, and I can't remember all the organizations, but anyway, they formed this Natural Assets Initiative, and they have worked now with I think it's over 120 municipalities across Canada on doing this first step of a natural asset inventory. And then since this has been kind of moving forward in the last few years, I will get phone calls saying, hey, can you jump on a call with me and tell me what to do next? And so then I say, you just do it, make a plan and go. But yeah, there is more uptake, but the people that are doing it in these other, so Resort Municipality of Whistler, City of Okotoks, City of Halifax, these are some of the folks that I've spoken to, and they are all they're like environmental managers or roles kind of the same as that, and they are doing it off the side of their desk. So they've had, say, Resort Municipality of Whistler, they had a council direction to do a natural asset valuation of a certain creek, and so she got this valuation done, and it said, this creek is worth whatever millions in stormwater or whatever. And she said, okay, well, what do I do with that? And so that's so that roadmap for how to do this is it's just sitting here still. We're building it. It's just kind of moving. I've done a couple projects with the Natural Assets Initiative on things like developing levels of service for natural assets, because that's something that we do with our engineered assets, but it's never been done in local governments for natural assets. Yeah.
My name is Louis Giguère from Seychelles. At the beginning, you presented some short-term solution or objectives, and then you followed that with a strategic plan diagram which had 4 or 5 steps. I think the 4th or 5th was implementation. And then it said, it was a bigger box saying strategic plan. I'm trying to understand where you at in this strategic plan, and is it going to grow, or are you actually still developing the strategic plan?
So so we're at the implementation planning phase right now, so that's like what Andrea said, is we're building out what these specific actions that the town of Gibsons can do to implement these strategies and the objectives. And then right now, I mean, I had Ruth that we're working with, I had her send me it in an Excel sheet of like all the actions, and I was like, oh my God, it just kept going and going and going. So we're refining those actions with the advisory team. Like Stuart is on the team, David's on the team, Inez is on the team, and what we're gonna do is refine those and then bring them back to the community and say, what do you think of these? Get some more input, and then we can finalize the plan by the end of the year.
And then you'll get money to do all this.
Well, one of the things that
The project you already showed, the money part of the short term, they're like a sort of a test and experiment.
they're totally outside of this plan.
Yeah,
They're
they
just
are,
like,
okay.
they're, but I mean, I would say that I've had some pretty good success with getting grants. Like,
Yeah.
this is something, and funders are really, they're keen to work with communities that are looking to become more climate resilient, so I'm not too concerned about that. And like, through the implementation planning, we're gonna identify whether it's gonna be like operational, budget, like within the town of Gibsons to do each item, or if it's gonna be capital budget, or if it's gonna be grant funded, or if it's a partnership with, like, so like this project itself is grant funded. So we just have to see what comes of it and then figure out how to fund them all. Okay.
I'm wondering, do you also collect data on foot traffic or any sort of tourism that's brought up with parks or any sort of ecological development that might attract attention for people, and use that as a means to what the assets that you could inform donations or community members about what possible benefits you could get from the climate actions and all that?
Well, right now, things like, do you mean foot traffic, like how many people are coming here?
Yeah, or some. Or
Yeah,
people
that
are
would
going-
be through like other planning, like planning, like active transportation or data collection like that. My collection is all just on how creeks flow and.
I'm just thinking that might be good information for some business owners to want to know.
Yeah.
Because it might also incentivize them to donate to it so that they can get more foot traffic near their business.
Yeah. And one of the implementation actions, which I thought was interesting, I might have taken it off of here, but was looking at, like reducing out of Gibsons traffic, so like making sure that we have all the amenities here within town, so you don't have to drive to Seychelles to get something or go to Vancouver on the ferry, and, but yeah, and that's supporting local businesses and economic development too within Gibsons. Okay. Oh.
Good question. I saw an interesting diagram about the coastal shoreline. That's probably just a concept right now, but it involved putting structures and increasing the amount of eelgrass to protect the shore. Is this really a Department of Fisheries and Ocean territory, or is that part of the Gibsons footprint, so to speak? I was wondering, because that sounds like an exciting project, but you're trying to change the dynamic of the coastline.
Right.
To protect the
Right.
community.
Are you talking about a Gibson specific plan?
Well,
I think it's-
Was it in mine?
It was
Oh,
one
the
of
coastal resilience.
Yeah.
So
That's so
things like that.
interesting,
So I'm working on a foreshore project, which hopefully, fingers crossed, will be built next year, where we've taken information that we got from that coastal resilience project, information that we got from foreshore condition assessment in 2017 or 18, and taken all that information, and now we're using it and giving it to our coastal engineers to look at like eelgrass beds and armoring the shore. And so yes, it's DFO, Department of Fisheries and Oceans, they have to give us a permit. So we can do it because we have the recreational water lease along the harbor, but the permitting is like extensive. And so we're working with like coastal engineers and marine biologists on developing the plan to apply for a permit with DFO.
Yeah. So, Louis, the way it works out is eelgrass is good for fish
Yeah.
and other habitat benefits. It doesn't do a lot for attenuating wave energy. You actually need other things like structures if you really want, if you've got major storms coming in like king tides together with sea level rise
Yeah.
right out here. Eelgrass isn't going to be sufficient.
Yeah, what I could see, you had a structure beyond the grass.
Yeah.
And talk about changing the angle of the beach, which would
Right.
be absorbing the energy. So it looks, I've never seen that concept. It looked very interesting to me. I'm a biologist.
Yeah.
It's not as good as a mangrove.
No, I know. Yeah.
Climate change,
Soon enough.
You think-
Hi Nancy. Michelle,
Thinking outside the
curious
box.
how you work with the engineered asset group, because I presume there's someone looking after those.
Yeah. So it's interesting because when I first started in this, there was a lot of things happening. One was imposter syndrome, where I thought like, why am I the one doing this job? Like, do I have a seat at the table? I found it really challenging because at the beginning, like the tree preservation bylaw, I worked on that in my first year in this job, and that's been really contentious, and made me want to quit my job a million times. But and because of that, then now I have to like vet development plans to look at tree retention and protection of trees that are going to be retained, and then also like replacement of trees when they do have to cut them down if they're in the building envelope. And developers in Gibsons never had to do that before. So here Michelle was like going out in the field, meeting, with my like shiny hard hat and thing, and talking to engineers and saying, oh yeah, no, you gotta protect that. And then it's like, it costs money, right? It's like just adding another regulatory piece onto development. So it was hard because I felt like I was this squeaky little voice that was yelling, and I wasn't yelling, but you know what I mean? I found it really challenging because the engineering world is a lot different than the natural world. But now, because I'm so supported within the Town of Gibsons staff, so when I work on projects like the Creek project, we're doing culvert replacement and engineered like riprap, but we're also, it's a green project, and they know that Michelle's gonna come down there and I'm gonna look at the trees and make sure that they're protecting the roots and that they're gonna, like all of that. And it's only been 5 years, and it's the development community and like contractors, they just recognize that this is the way it is now.
That's good.
I think engineers are fascinating.
And
I don't think like them.
The
but-
staff within the municipality, did they accept?
Oh yeah.
That was good?
Oh yeah. There's jokes at the beginning. Somebody calls me tree shell. Like it's like, what's Michelle gonna think about this? But I realized that. And actually, somebody said to me years ago, the old director, because there was there's some pushback from residents especially, and some very vocal pushback, and he said, oh, you just gotta develop a thick skin. And I said, I don't wanna develop a thick skin. I don't wanna be, that's not me. And so somebody said to me the other day, it was actually the director of finance at the Town of Gibsons, and he said, he's like, oh, Michelle, just water off a duck's back. And I was like, oh, that's so much better. That's so much better. But yeah, it's interesting because I find that this role, it sounds like it would be that everyone would love me and that everyone would love all the things I'm doing, but no, I mean, I've been FOI'd, like I have people that writing me angry emails, I've had people swearing and yelling at me, like it's surprising how, yeah, that.
Well, you're breaking into a very traditional
Yeah.
system with a really new
Yeah.
concept, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a new concept, it's
No, it's
others
not.
nature's concept,
Exactly,
but it's
yeah.
new to the engineering and that planning world,
Yeah,
right?
and I went to a conference last year with Cedar, actually, he was there too, but it was so fascinating because it was nature-based coastal solutions is what it was called, and it was put on by engineers, like coastal engineers, structural, civil engineers, and they were talking about, so they were presenting on nature-based coastal solutions, so it was like complete flip from my mindset, so they're looking at, here we are engineering our way out of problems, but hey, what if we like bring nature back in? And so it's just, I was sitting with Cedar, who's, I worked with on a couple projects, who works with ESSA, and we were like writing notes to each other going, have they never thought of this before? And like, what? I don't get it. But it was fascinating, and it was so great to see people in that engineering world so excited about using nature in their designs. And they do work together.
The finally got together.
Yeah, I know, it was cool.
My brother started doing that. My brother's a programmer and he started to talk about it. Yeah, how programming also using information from the environmental world to kind of try and do developments and projects. And he told that to me, who studied environmentalism. Yeah.
Oh, right.
But that's okay, if they're coming around,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
their
Yeah.
idea, you know?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Well, maybe we can have a short break and then come
Yeah,
back. Does that
yeah.
sound all right?
Yeah, we can have a short break
You
for
can do
sure,
your-
and I hope you come back and.
Yeah,
give
do come
some
back,
more
because
input.
Andrea would be really sad if you don't.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
Washrooms are down at the end of the hall here, folks, and there's water down
great.
there.